Over 1 million British pensioners are currently living abroad and receiving the UK state pension from overseas. That is not a fringe movement. That is not a trend for the wealthy. That is 1 million ordinary British people who looked at the numbers, looked at the life their pension would buy them in the UK, and decided that the same money would buy them something dramatically better somewhere else. And they were right. Today we are going to explain exactly why so many Brits are making this decision, what the numbers actually look like in the most popular destinations, and precisely how much you need saved before retiring abroad becomes a realistic option for you, not just something you watch other people do. Let's start with the real reason this is happening, because it is not just about sunshine, although the sunshine helps. It is about a fundamental mismatch between what the UK costs to live in during retirement and what the state pension actually pays. The full new state pension in 2026 pays £241.30 per week, which is £12,548 per year. According to the Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association's 2026 retirement living standards, a minimum retirement for a single person in the UK costs £13,900 per year, a moderate retirement costs £32,700, and a comfortable retirement costs £45,400. The state pension does not even clear the minimum standard on its own. It falls short by £1,352 per year, and it sits at less than a third of what a comfortable retirement requires. Now, layer on top of that the specific cost pressures that hit retirees hardest in the UK. Housing is one of the most significant. The PLSA retirement living standards assume you own your home outright, with no rent or mortgage. But according to recent DWP data, a growing proportion of people reaching retirement age in the UK are renting, particularly in major cities, and the average monthly rent on a two-bedroom property outside London now exceeds £1,200 per month. If you are renting in retirement in the UK, you need to add £14,400 to the PLSA's already stretched moderate standard just to cover housing. That pushes the real cost of a moderate rented retirement in a UK city to over £47,000 per year, which is a number that simply does not work on a state pension of £12,548. Then there is the NHS. The National Health Service remains one of the great achievements of British public life, and this video is not an attack on it, but the data is clear. Average GP waiting times in England in 2026 are running at over 3 weeks for a non-urgent appointment. Average referral to treatment times for consultant-led care are running at over 18 weeks. For retirees, who statistically need health care more frequently than the working population, these waiting times are not an abstract inconvenience. They are a daily reality that shapes quality of life in retirement in ways that are rarely discussed when people plan for it in their 40s. And while the NHS is free at the point of use, the practical experience of navigating it in later life is a factor that many Brits only fully reckon with once they reach retirement age. And then there is the weather. This is a factor that gets mocked as superficial, but the research is consistent. The mental and physical health benefits of living in a warm, sunny climate during retirement are measurable and significant. Rates of seasonal affective disorder, vitamin D deficiency, joint pain, and general low mood are all meaningfully higher in cold, gray climates. For someone in their 60s and 70s spending more time at home and outdoors than at any previous point in their life, the difference between an average of 150 sunny days per year in the UK and 280 sunny days per year in southern Portugal or Spain is not trivial. It is a material quality of life difference that compounds over the course of a long retirement. So that is the why. Now let's talk about the where and the how much, because this is where the numbers get genuinely extraordinary, and where the gap between what your pension buys you in the UK versus what it buys you elsewhere becomes most vivid. Spain is home to approximately 761,000 British citizens, making it the single largest destination for British expats anywhere in the world. The concentration along the Costa Blanca, Costa del Sol, and in the Balearic and Canary Islands means that for most British retirees, moving to Spain does not feel like a foreign country. It feels like a version of the UK with better weather, better food, lower prices, and a well-established community of people from the same cultural background. A comfortable monthly budget for a single British retiree living in coastal Spain in 2026, covering rent for a two-bedroom apartment, groceries, utilities, private health insurance, transport, and regular leisure and dining, runs to approximately £1,200 to £1,500 per month. That is £14,400 to £18,000 per year. Compare that to the £47,000 a year that a moderate rented retirement in a UK city costs, and you start to understand why the Costa Blanca has a higher density of retired British nationals than most British coastal towns. The visa for Spain post-Brexit is a non-lucrative visa, which requires proof of a minimum monthly income of approximately €2,400 per month for a single applicant, which is roughly £2,050 at current exchange rates. That is above the state pension alone, which means the NLV requires either a workplace pension, a private pension, rental income from a UK property, or savings income on top of the state pension to qualify. But here's the crucial point about Spain. Your UK state pension continues to rise every year under the triple lock, because Spain is in the European Economic Area and is covered by the UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Every April, your pension goes up. Every year, your income grows while your costs in Spain rise at the Spanish rate of inflation, which has historically been lower than the UK's. The compounding effect of that over a 20 or 30-year retirement is enormous. Portugal is increasingly the more financially accessible option for British retirees, particularly those with more modest income levels. Restaurant prices in the UK are approximately 56.9% higher than in Portugal, and UK rent prices are around 32% higher. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between a retirement that works and one that doesn't. A comfortable single retirement in the Algarve or on the Silver Coast in 2026 costs approximately £1,000 to £1,300 per month, covering rent, groceries, utilities, health insurance, and a full social life, including regular meals out and several European short breaks per year. The visa, the D7 passive income visa, has a notably lower income threshold than Spain's NLV, requiring proof of approximately €920 per month, which is around £785, making it far more accessible to people living primarily on the state pension with a modest workplace pension alongside it. And like Spain, Portugal is in the EEA, meaning your state pension continues to receive full triple lock increases every year for as long as you live there. The picture in Southeast Asia, and specifically in Thailand, is even more dramatic in terms of monthly costs, but it comes with critical warning that bears repeating here, because it is the single most important thing any British retiree considering Thailand needs to understand before they book their flight. A comfortable retirement in Chiang Mai in northern Thailand costs approximately £1,100 to £1,500 per month, which at the current exchange rate of around 43 to 45 baht to the pound buys you a modern apartment, street food, and restaurant meals of genuine quality, private health care at internationally accredited hospitals, and a social life within the largest British expat community in Southeast Asia. On those numbers alone, Thailand looks like the obvious choice. But Thailand is not on the UK's list of countries with which it has a social security uprating agreement. According to DWP figures, approximately 453,000 British pensioners living in countries without reciprocal agreements will not receive the annual state pension uprating in 2026 to 27, leaving their payments frozen at the rate when they first retired abroad. If you retire to Thailand on the full new state pension of £241.30 per week today, that is what you will still receive in 20 years' time, regardless of inflation, regardless of the triple lock, regardless of what pensioners back in the UK are receiving. Assuming 3% annual inflation, that frozen pension will have lost approximately 45% of its real purchasing power over 2 decades. A retirement that looks generous at 67 can look very stretched indeed at 87, and that trajectory needs to be the foundation of any honest financial plan that involves retiring to a frozen pension country. Now let's talk about exactly how much you need, because this is where most content about retiring abroad falls short. People show you the lifestyle and the monthly cost, but they skip the bit that actually determines whether you can do it, which is a total savings and income position you need to be in before you board the plane. The minimum viable financial position for retiring abroad depends on 3 things. First, your state pension entitlement. Second, any additional guaranteed income you have from workplace or private pensions. And third, your savings and investment pot available to generate supplementary income or cover unexpected costs. For retirement in Spain or Portugal, where your state pension continues to rise every year, here's what a sound financial plan looks like. If you have the full new state pension of £12,548 per year and a workplace or private pension generating an additional £8,000 per year, your combined guaranteed income is £20,548 per year, which at the cost of living in coastal Spain or the Algarve covers a comfortable lifestyle with money to spare. That private pension income of £8,000 per year requires, using the 4% drawdown rule, a pension pot of approximately £200,000. So the minimum viable financial position for a comfortable retirement in Spain or Portugal is the full state pension plus a private pension pot of around £200,000. That is not an enormous number. It is not £1 million. It is not the kind of figure that only high earners can reach. Many people who have been contributing consistently to a workplace pension for 20 to 30 years will have a pot in or around that range, and some will have significantly more. For a Thailand retirement with a frozen pension, the calculation is more conservative and requires a larger private savings buffer, specifically because your pension income will not grow in real terms over time. If you retire to Thailand at 67 on the full state pension and a private pension pot of £200,000 generating £8,000 per year, your combined starting income of £20,548 looks comfortable against Thai living costs of roughly £14,000 to £18,000 per year. But by the time you reach your late 70s, your frozen state pension is worth significantly less in real terms, while Thai living costs have continued to rise, and your drawdown pot has been depleting for a decade. The responsible financial plan for a Thailand retirement requires either a substantially larger private pot, a meaningful investment income stream that continues to grow, or a clear plan to return to UK or move to an uprated pension country if the numbers stop working. Planning for Thailand at the same budget as Spain or Portugal without accounting for the pension freeze is one of the most common and most costly planning mistakes British retirees make. There is also a category of British retiree that is less commonly discussed but increasingly significant, and that is the person who retires abroad not at 67 but at 55 or 60 before they can access the state pension at all. The normal minimum pension access age is currently 55, rising to 57 on the 6th of April 2028, meaning you can access private pension savings from that age, but the state pension does not begin until 67. For someone who retires abroad at 55, that is a 12-year period during which all their income needs to come from private pension savings, ISAs, investments, or other income sources, with no state pension as a floor. Running the numbers on a 12-year bridge period before the state pension begins significantly changes the required pot size. If your target lifestyle abroad costs £20,000 per year, 12 years of pre-state pension retirement requires £240,000 just for the bridge before you factor in the private savings needed to supplement the state pension for the rest of your retirement. For early retirement abroad, most financial planners suggest a minimum private pot of £350,000 to £400,000 for a moderate lifestyle, with $500,000 or more providing genuine comfort and resilience against unexpected costs. And there are practical steps everyone considering retiring abroad needs to take before they commit to anything, regardless of their destination. The first is checking your national insurance record. You need 35 qualifying years for the full new state pension, and any gaps in your record can be filled by making voluntary Class 3 national insurance contributions, even from abroad. From April 2026, Class 2 contributions for time abroad are no longer available, so Class 3 is now the only route for voluntary contributions. Every missing year costs you approximately 1/30th of the full state pension, which at current rates is approximately £360 per year for the rest of your life, and filling a voluntary gap typically costs around £824 for a Class 3 year. The arithmetic on filling gaps is almost always in your favor. The second step is getting a state pension forecast. The Government Gateway Pension Forecast tool shows you exactly how much you are entitled to receive based on your current national insurance record and any projected future contributions before you reach state pension age. This number is the foundation of your entire overseas retirement plan, and knowing it precisely rather than approximately makes a significant difference to your financial planning. The third step is understanding the tax implications, because retiring abroad does not mean you escape UK tax obligations. Your UK pension income, both state pension and private pension, remains subject to UK tax rules. Whether you also pay tax in your destination country depends on whether the UK has a double taxation agreement with that country and the terms of that agreement. Spain, Portugal, and Thailand all have double taxation agreements with the UK, but the specifics of how pension income is treated under each agreement differ, and getting this wrong can result in tax being paid twice or income being taxed at unexpectedly high rates. A qualified financial advisor with expertise in both UK and expat taxation is essential before you finalize any overseas retirement plan. The fourth and perhaps most practical step is a trial run. Spending 3 to 6 months in your intended destination before committing to a permanent move costs very little relative to the cost of making a wrong decision about where to spend the rest of your life. Renting rather than buying in the early years of an overseas retirement is almost always the right approach because it preserves your flexibility to change your mind, move to a different area, or return to the UK if your circumstances change. The 1 million Brits already drawing their pension from overseas are not all wealthy retirees with large pots and multiple properties. Many of them are ordinary people who simply did the maths, realized what their pension would actually buy them in different places, and made a practical decision to spend their retirement years somewhere that the same money went further and the weather did not require a coat in July. The gap between what a comfortable retirement costs in the UK and what the same comfortable retirement costs in Spain, Portugal, or Southeast Asia is large enough that for a very significant number of British people, retiring abroad is not just an aspiration. It is, financially speaking, the most sensible thing they could do. If this helped you think more clearly about what your options actually are, please hit the like button and subscribe to UK Finance with Peter for more honest, practical content on money and retirement for people living and working in the UK. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.